Yeah, I'm Max. Over there is Sybe and the other side of my country. Maximum News. We like to skip the intros and get right into the news here. That's what sets us apart from all the other gaming podcasts. Activision Blizzard update. Obviously, we're not letting this stuff go. We're going to keep talking about this until some serious change is made in regards to that company. Just a little bit of news this week. It seems like a bit of a step in the right direction. We could talk about it a little bit more. Activision Blizzard has hired a woman named Julie Hodges, a former Disney executive, to be their CPO. The CPO is apparently a chief people officer. I swear I'd never heard about that in regards to corporate structures. Like I've heard of CEO, CFO. Maybe it's a thing. When at Disney, Julie was the senior vice president of corporate HR, compensation, benefits, and talent acquisition. In other words, she helped basically just shape the corporate culture at Disney, and she's going to be doing a lot of the same stuff when she goes over to Activision Blizzard. She will be in charge of everything, and this is a direct quote from the people at Activision Blizzard, that she will be in charge of diversity, equity, and inclusion, talent acquisition, like I said, employee experience, learning and development, compensation, and benefits and workplace planning. This is following up the firing of the former HR executive, Jesse Meschuk, who left last month alongside J. Allen Brack, the now former president of Blizzard. Now, I'll just give my quick thoughts on this, and then Sybe, I want to hear from you, obviously. They're doing, on the most basic of terms, they are doing what they should be doing. Getting rid of the old brass, bringing in the new people. And I like to think that, because she's a woman, that there will be sort of a greater level of intolerance here. But having said that, there were, and still are, women that were a part of the old administration that were there while all this stuff was happening. So I don't know. You'd like to think that'd be something good.
It seems weird to me that people forget that women can be really nasty to women as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they can be quite vicious. They're not as overt as men are when it comes to, mistreatment. They tend to do it in a very covert way. And that's not just me being prejudiced. You can look up scientific and psychological evaluations of the way that men and women mistreat each other. I would like to think that when it comes to something that's just so blatantly criminal and offensive, like the stuff that has allegedly been going on behind the scenes at Activision Blizzard, that women, because it sort of affects them differently in that way, that they would be more willing to speak up, but I guess not, right? Also, I'm a little bit just wary whenever anybody says the words diversity, equity, and inclusion in that order, because oftentimes when people sort of say that, they say it as a sort of a mantra rather than as, something that they actually want to do and do it in a virtuous way. You know what I mean? Because every time I've ever heard anybody say that, they are sort of providing their own ideologically biased version of it. They're just sort of talking about it in a virtue signaling way without actually doing anything constructive to actually promote virtuous diversity, equity, and inclusion.
This is not a new problem either. We've had this problem going back decades and perhaps even hundreds of years with charities. For those of you who don't have the visual synapsis receiver, I am doing the air quotes right now. The air quotes is lots of these charities in the past have been like, hey, we're raising money for this noble cause. And then they take your money, and then later you find out, or you never find out, but somebody knows that 99% of that money that you gave them is just going to them so that they can ride around in expensive vehicular things and talking about this issue. And then they're giving 1% or 2%, off to the actual people who are actually doing the work, or actually, getting the food that ends up in the mouths of the people who need it. That kind of stuff. That has been going on for a very long time. And it is quite possibly one of the greatest grifts of the last 100 years, because some of the biggest politicians and some of the biggest celebrities in the world have been caught red-handed with this time and time and time and time again, and nobody calls them out. And there's a lot of this going on in all of these facets. And with Blizzard, it really is getting to the point where I am very disgusted with this, and it's getting worse every day, because it's a lot of this, oh, look how good we are now. Meanwhile, hey, we're busting up the union. Oh, look at how much we respect you. Oh, hey, don't mind the fact that we, paid off some people and then shredded a whole bunch of documents relating to the problems that actually went on.
Yeah, meanwhile, we're still trying to appease the Chinese government. Don't pay any attention to that.
Yeah. And it gets to us, but we have to be vocal on this. We have to call this out, because if we don't, we are looking to a future that is frankly nightmarish, and it's going to get worse if these people get away with what they're doing constantly.
Yes. Yeah, hold them to account, guys. Don't forget about this. Whenever they put out like tweets, like especially what was happening before all this sort of stuff broke out. I think it was like Pride Month when they were like changing their Twitter profile pictures and, you know, expressing solidarity with disenfranchised groups, and then all this stuff happened. That sort of stuff is not just unique to Blizzard, Activision. Obviously, it's something that a lot of people do. But now it's an appropriate time to actually keep them in the spotlight and make sure that they're actually practicing what they preach. And as long as we keep talking about it, as long as their crimes alleged are in the public consciousness, then actual good stuff will start to happen. This is one step. Like I said, it's not a substantial step in the right direction, but it is a step, just getting rid of the original bosses in charge and replacing them. We'll see if that leads to anything. If not, then we'll go from there when we come to that bridge, right? All right, so that's just a little bit of a brief update. Let's get on to actually a little bit of interesting news. Video game adaptations, when it comes to movies and TV series, they don't tend to be very good. We've been lucky in the last couple of years where we've actually had some I think we would actually say that the mold has been broken. We've had some good adaptations. The Sonic movie, very obviously for kids, but it was harmless. It was good. And then, a lot of people talk about the Castlevania series on Netflix, which is apparently amazing. I've never seen it, though. I want to play the games first. But it's looking like we're going to be getting more and more adaptations, and it seems like they're being taken a little bit more seriously, what with the talent they're bringing on board, and not just in terms of actors, but in terms of writers. And one particular video game franchise that is getting adapted that actually does seem to have some promise is Twisted Metal. I love playing Twisted Metal back in the day. I played all the Twisted Metals on PlayStation 1 when I was a kid, long before I should have been playing games. I was like 4, 6 whenever I started playing those games. Never played Twisted Metal Black, though, which is too bad. I never owned a PS2. But anyways, it was announced a while back that the two guys that wrote Deadpool, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, were going to be doing it, which is great news because Deadpool, that movie was freaking great. And it looks like they also just hired on pretty high A-list star to lead the series. It's looking like Anthony Mackie has been brought on board to play a character named John Doe. Now, as I just said before, I only really played the original PS1 Twisted Metals. I never played Twisted Metal Black, which is apparently where John Doe, became a prominent character. But there is apparently a character from there, and he's going to be in the Twisted Metal TV series. And Anthony Mackie, the guy who plays Falcon in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he's also in 8 Mile. He's going to be playing John Doe. Now, in case you guys don't know who John Doe is, he is an amnesiac who apparently can't remember anything about himself, but is covered in tattoos that may hold the clue to his past. So, talking like Memento, in case you've ever seen that movie. And then finally, just before I get your opinion on this, Saib, Deadline, reputable Hollywood type source, right up there with the Hollywood Reporter, says that the series will follow a motor-mouthed outsider, I'm guessing that'd be John Doe, who could earn a better life for himself, but only after delivering a mysterious package through a post-apocalyptic wasteland. So kind of like The Last of Us, but with cars. Saib, you ever play Twisted Metal, and what's your opinion on the series? On this
I
TV
wasn't
series.
aware that Twisted Metal really actually had a plot to it. I thought it was one of those games that it's been a while since I played them. Like I played like you said, the earlier versions of it, and it's one of those ones where I was like, oh, cool, crazy car people and clowns and vehicles and shooting other things and blowing stuff up. Yeah. And it was just good mindless fun. It's like, and I hate to be the person who's commenting on this when I've gone on record a number of times saying that people were always way too critical of the Transformers movie. It's like the Transformer movies doesn't have plot. Where is the moment where the love of the main show turns to the other main character of the show and expresses a deep emotional understanding of a situation? We're not there to see that. We're there to see big robots fighting each other. It's not meant to be something that you like sink your teeth into and you're like, wow, that reading of Transformers was right up there with William Shakespeare or Huckleberry. It's like, no. Like, no.
Yeah, but you gotta have some semblance of a narrative. Otherwise,
it's like at the same time, it's like it shouldn't be meant to. So just generally speaking, in this, I'm very curious as to what's going on, because I'm like, oh, okay, this is very interesting. This can lead to and develop into something quite substantial, I think, and I'm good with that. I think that's a brilliant, excellent thing. I hope that they come up with a cool story that they can add in and make things kind of fun and flexible and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, fingers crossed that they do a good job.
Now, hopefully somebody who's watching this has played Twisted Metal Black and can sort of confirm this for me. From what I understand, Twisted Metal Black actually did have some decent story to it, unlike the first 4 Twisted Metal games. And maybe they're going to be trying to take inspiration from that. I just don't know how different it was compared to the original PS1 games, where all it was this tournament of people trying to kill each other until one was left standing. And then that one person got a wish from a guy named Calypso, and that they could wish for anything they wanted. I hope that something like that is maintained, because there's just something intrinsically cool about a basic concept like that. Obviously, you'll need to expand upon it, and I think, what are the names? Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick are going to be able to do that. I just hope that Calypso is such a great villain. I'd love to see him in there somehow. Yeah, they got the right talent on board. If they can get the sort of bombastic ridiculousness of Deadpool and translate that into the world of Twisted Metal, like you said, Saib, we could be in for something really special. I just hope that that Hollywood has finally learned their lesson and are actually going to start giving these properties the proper respect and talent that they deserve, which up until the last couple of years we haven't really had.
Yeah. So again, I'm looking forward to it. I hope they do something cool with it. I think that this is a good idea because it's a fairly blank slate, and I think they can do a lot with that if they do it right. So we'll see. Oh, and by the way, if you want a post-apocalyptic hellscape to film in, I mean, like right now, California is absolutely peak for that, man. I mean, it's great. I mean, just anywhere you go, it's just like, dystopian future with bombed out buildings and stuff like that. So it's great. It's great. I'm joking, of course.
Not that much though, unfortunately. No offense to the people that live in California. We love you. We hope you're okay. Just one last thing though, if they don't have Sweet Tooth in this series, I disown it completely.
We're missing something, I think.
Yeah. Moving on to the third subject of the day, Saib, I'm going to sing a few notes for you, and you and everybody else listening to this should be able to recognize it.
You go too much in that, you're gonna set off the YouTube algorithm detector, and it's gonna be like, this video is in violation of the terms of agreement. Yeah. But yeah, no.
Although,
Halo,
it's the gaming anthem. Yeah, Halo, obviously. If you guys want to see some oddly entertaining videos, just look up on YouTube just people singing the Halo theme song in unison. Like there's some of these like high school kids standing in a bathroom or like a changing room and just singing the song, and it's like the comments on those videos are hilarious. But anyways, Halo.
There was one time that I saw this happen at an amusement park. One guy got up onto the top of this one thing, and he started with that, and then all of the other men just stopped and raised their hands and started to sing along. And all of their wives and girlfriends were all dumbfounded and had no idea what was going on. They thought that there was some like mind probe parasite or something happening all at the same time to make all of the men do this, and it was quite hilarious to see. So it's
that. Are you serious? That's amazing.
Yeah, and they were quite perturbed and worried about this. So
yeah, I mean, if I were a woman and I didn't know anything about Halo, I'd be too, because whenever your hands are extended and your mouths are open and you're chanting, people might think that the invasion of the body snatchers has actually happened, and at some point Donald Sutherland's going to start screaming at us. Anyways, Halo, guy who made that magnificent soundtrack is in a bit of legal trouble. Obviously, Bungie, they were the guys that originally made Halo. They also are the ones that made Destiny and Destiny 2. Unfortunately, for reasons that several years later we still do not understand, there were a whole bunch of high-profile people that used to work at Bungie that left. One of them was Marty O'Donnell, the guy who made the music. I think Joseph Staten, the guy that originally wrote Destiny and Halo, also left. Jason Jones, I don't think is there anymore. But anyways, we're talking about the composer. He has been found in contempt of court. And it's unfortunate. Like, there's a couple sides to this where I both sort of side with him, but side with the court, and we'll get to that. Apparently, he was uploading assets from Destiny to his YouTube channel when he wasn't supposed to. And the assets were early musical sketches of what became known in the Destiny fan base as the Music of the Spheres. And the Music of the Spheres is an 8-movement orchestral suite that was recorded back when the original Destiny came out with the help of former Beatle, Paul McCartney. There was a prior lawsuit between O'Donnell and Bungie around 2015 that O'Donnell actually won. But one of the things that sort of came out of that lawsuit was that O'Donnell was blocked from sharing or performing any of the Music of the Spheres or any of the music from Destiny after he left the company. So apparently sharing these early musical sketches of Music of the Spheres on his YouTube channel was a violation of sort of the terms surrounding that 2015 lawsuit. And because he did that, he's now having to pay the price. So as of July of this year, this is coming from Eurogamer, they were able to confirm this, O'Donnell has been ordered to pay close to $100,000 in legal fees to Bungie. He also has to submit to a third-party forensic examination of all of his digital devices to see if any Destiny-related content is stored there. He has to write to any third party who posted the material and ask them to remove it. He must post a message to all of his social media websites saying that he did not have legal authority to possess or provide material related to Destiny. Now, all this is what likely motivated O'Donnell to post the following on his Twitter back in June. Here, I'm quoting something that he said on June the 3rd. He said, "I'm thinking about retiring from the games industry for good," which is a horrible thing to hear from a guy as talented as him and for enriching the lives of so many people with his music. And finally, he also asked for people to go buy the soundtrack to a VR game that he did the soundtrack for called Gollum. And he said that doing so would help pay his legal bills. Now, I'm of two minds on this, and I'll get to that in a second, but I did talk a lot. Saib, I wanted to get your thought on this whole situation.
It's a shame. And I can understand the fact that you created art and then somebody else says, well, actually, due to how you happen to have signed a bad contract and you didn't do this or that or, this other thing, we own that now and we're just cutting you off completely from it. And then we're going to show up at your place with us like dunking your picture into a pile, like into a barrel full of like garbage and crap and stuff. And we're going to moon you and we're going to mock you. That's equivalent to what he feels like that he's going through. And I am, we've seen this in a number of places. We've seen this on YouTube with a bunch of these network groups that promised people the moon that then didn't do anything for them for years. They just sat soaking up the money from the videos. And then when the creator wanted to do something, the group completely shut them down and shut them out. We've seen that there. We've seen this this has been going on in art for literally probably thousands of years. And it's a shame because when you create something, you should have some level of control over that. Now, I don't think that you should have ultimate control over it because I think that once you make art and put it out into the sphere, especially if it's recorded art, other people have the right to, remix, do things with it. You can hang up a piece of art in your home and then take a picture of your home and, people doing something, at Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever. And if the picture is the background, you don't have the right to like show up and say, burn all these photos. It's like, no, you sold it in a fair contract. So it is a muddy scenario. It is a difficult scenario. And the fact that the guy is thinking about getting out of the gaming industry is a shame. And I know where he's coming from because I've seen things happen to people that I've been close to that have the similar stuff and similar problems. And I don't think there's no easy singular answer for this. All there is difficult questions that are honestly going to be hard.
It's Yeah, you summed up pretty much my feelings on it too, man. There's like the moral side of it and the legal side of it. On the moral side, obviously, you and I side with O'Donnell because we want wonderful artists like him to continue to create the stuff and, not to get bogged down by the business of things, which so many great artists often do. Like, obviously, one that comes to mind is Prince when he was still alive, the contractual issues that he went through and the way that he tried to deal with it. He became the artist formerly known as Prince as a way of sort of striking back at the terrible contract obligations that he was a part of. But, on the other hand, Bungie does have a legal basis to do this, and you can't fault them for doing that. But it's, again, the morality of it comes into play, and it's like, God, O'Donnell and the music that he provided for Halo and the way Halo sort of took Bungie from this relatively glorified indie studio to this multi-billion-dollar creators of Destiny. It was largely thanks to the personality that Marty O'Donnell's music gave to both Halo and Destiny that helped make them so successful. That's his work on those games is as synonymous with the success of those games as I think his name is Mick Gordon, the music that he does for Doom. Right? Or Nobuo Uematsu for the original Final Fantasy PS1 games. It's so good. And I just wish that, especially now that they're not involved with Activision anymore, that Bungie would be willing to find some way to sort of engage in some sort of reconciliation with Marty. But I guess there's stuff behind the scenes that we don't know about that's sort of preventing something like that from happening. And it's so sad. I just hope that I actually encourage everybody that's listening to this right now. I'm probably going to go do it when we're done, to go and buy the soundtrack for Gollum just to let him know how much we love him. And I hope that he'll be able to find some way to create music without being bogged down like this in the future. But given the way the games industry works and entertainment works in general, it's I understand the way that he feels and why things might feel bleak. And it's unfortunately we don't have a positive story to sort of follow up with that. And actually, we have something a little bit more depressing. But it needs to be talked about, guys. If any sort of change is going to happen in regards to the way that the gaming industry is sort of unfolding right now. Saib, you alerted to my attention this last news story, and even we're going to be talking about China. And I think I made it pretty clear with past episodes that I'm really not a fan of China in any way, shape, or form. But having said that, the stuff that you showed me in regards to what China is doing, I even found it hard to believe at first. And I actually had, you and I sort of scrambled looking for a source for it, but apparently it's legit. So why don't you tell people what some of the new policies that China is implementing in regards to nationwide gaming and how they approve games that enter their country?
So they have clamped down on game time for minors. They have now clamped down on these game companies. They took out $1 trillion worth of their net worth via bad press, companies like seizing certain aspects or certain levying additional taxes, which is a form of seizing stuff. And now they have had this meeting. The meeting has gone through, and the new rules have been announced. And they didn't invite these companies here to debate or to question or to argue the merits of video games or anything like that. They came and told them exactly what they can and cannot have in their video games. And they got very serious with this. So my wife is from that part of the world. We have family in Hong Kong. And so we reached out and we talked to some people and we got some confirmation on stuff. So here, so this list, which was going around on Reddit, we can confirm now that this is what state media in China is touting that they're now approving of. This is poorly translated. So again, I don't want to get too heavy into the weeds in this. When you comment on this, don't quote too much of it, because if you quote too many negative things, YouTube actually just automatically hides your comment. We can't even see it. The only person who can see it is you, and then even sometimes not that. So again, it's not us, censoring you. It's actually YouTube's algorithm. So, and again, that's to censor out people that are posting, just heinous, terrible things. So it is a little understandable as far as that goes, and that's typically what happens. But it happens when you trigger certain words and stuff like that. So again, this is reporting on the list of elements that are banned in China going forward with video games. No underage love allowed. Now, I think we can kind of understand where that one's coming from, but this also includes, or the way that this was stated is that if you were to make a game about, a little kid and their dog, and how, the kid and the dog, they just love each other, and they're just like, going around and solving, little puzzles and stuff like that, that is no longer allowed, because of the way that they framed it and because of the way that they reported it. Because there was no debate. There was no clarification, with the exception of, I think one thing was allowed to be clarified, and that was it. That was it. One thing was clarified. The rest of this stuff was none of this in any way, shape, or form, period. The next one, no blood allowed. And again, you're like, oh, well, maybe people don't like gory games. Well, have you heard of games that focus around doctor stuff and nurse stuff and or treatment and stuff like that? There's some really hilarious surgeon games out there that are ridiculous but also very funny. Those are no longer allowed. No words allowed that will let one think of murder, such as kill. So does this mean that all killing in any video game is just now off the table? Well, that's going to be interpreted by a government agent who will then decide whether or not your game is allowed to be printed and distributed, or whether you are going to jail. So, again, crazy. No females in underwear allowed. No cleavage allowed at all. No attacks on females or their bits allowed. No touching them allowed. Again, it's there's a particular market for those kinds of games, and I mean, you can argue with them whether you like them or not. But censorship, I don't know if China knows this, but censorship doesn't work out the way you think it does. Normally, it just ends up making this stuff more popular. That's how it went in Japan and Korea. So I would really not bet on this ending well for them as far as what they think this is going to happen. No provoking the opponent allowed. Now, what does that mean by provoking the opponent? And again, that translation is going to be up to the government party, who's going to be deciding whether or not your game is allowed to exist or not, and or whether or not you just broke the law and you're going to jail. That this is how hard they have come down on these companies. What was your question?
No, provoking the opponent. Well, they're only your opponent if you provoke them. I don't understand that wording. I guess then again, it's just like you said, it's poorly translated.
Well, it's not, and again, I mean this in more than one way. It's poorly translated from Chinese to English, but it's also just, they didn't give a lot when they told the game companies this is the rules that you have to exist by. They essentially told them, here's another good one: no skulls or bones allowed. Now, does that mean you mean skull and crossbones like flag, like a pirate flag?
Right, like a Jolly
Or
Roger.
does that mean absolutely no bones and skulls allowed at all? So does that mean in games where, again, doctorally related games, things like that you're not allowed to show a human skeleton? Or does that mean that everything in that aspect has now been completely cut off? And again, we're just going to keep on reading here. No brutal actions allowed. And then they have in quotes, hunting non-humans is legal. So I guess that says that you can kill zombies if they don't look like humans, they don't have, red blood. And again, we've seen how this works in Germany. You can't show red blood in a video game. has to be.
Well, you can't kill zombies either, and you can't use weapons. So what? You just have to kiss the zombies and dance around in a circle singing "Kumbaya."
I guess no getting rewards from PvP content. No getting rewards for PvP content. That means that every game that is currently in China that has any kind of a PvP system and a reward system for PvP, this has now been completely and totally destroyed. You're not allowed to have these games there anymore. No scarring of player allowed. Now, what does it mean by scaring?
Oh, scaring.
Yeah, sorry, I said scarring. I meant scaring. So no scaring allowed. No content depicting democracy allowed. All right, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty. No content depicting democracy allowed. Think about that. No depicting it at all, as in you're not allowed to even comment that it exists. You can't have a discussion on whether it's good or bad. It's just flat out no democracy allowed. Period.
They're just trying to. It's like what they do in North Korea, where any idea of there being a world outside of North Korea is completely foreign to the people that have lived there their entire lives. It's like they're trying to go in that direction, where it's like, oh, the very idea of democracy needs to be completely phased out from the cultural canon.
Yeah. And you're told that it's just it's wildness. So okay. Now, if you're thinking, hey, this is kind of upsetting, I hope people get together. No. See, because we run into this here. No demonstrations allowed. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. No content going against communism allowed.
There you go.
So, you cannot show communism in a bad light, period. End of story. If you make a game where you're critical of communism, you are arrested and put into a jail. And these jails are not nice over there. People disappear all the time. It's really kind of crazy. Check out the, and again, check out the free press reporting on this kind of stuff.